Okay, so before the break, we learned about infant sleeping environments. Now, regardless of where they sleep, one thing's for sure, many parents just want their little ones to close those tiny eyes and drift off into la-la land.
That's because when little Johnny or little Susie isn't sleeping, neither is mom nor dad. Now, if you're a parent, or you have been a parent, you're probably all too familiar with being up at all hours of the night. So let's throw a few numbers your way. According to research done by ErgoFlex, parents get just over 5 hours of sleep a night during the first year of their child's life. You do the math. That's a sleep loss of just over 20 hours each week, or more than 1,000 hours in a year, or about 44 days. Yes, new parents lose 44 days of sleep each year. Doesn't that just make you tired thinking about it?
But it's all worth it. And it's not just newborns who have a rough time getting to sleep sometimes. Plenty of other children do too. So now some parents are turning to sleep coaches, while some pediatricians are asking why.
Night after night, nap after nap, sleep has never come easy for 9-month-old SJ.
He needs help going to sleep. He's not able to put himself to sleep.
It will never get better. It will only get worse.
Certified gentle sleep coach Stephanie Baker is keeping tabs on SJ's sleeping. She says he'll be a sound sleeper in about 2 weeks. It's all about the right timing for naps and bedtime.
It's like almost figuring out a math problem sometimes.
Baker says when the child becomes overtired, a stress hormone called cortisol can make bedtime bad news.
So that explains why children fight sleep the most when they're the most tired, and it explains why they sleep the most when they're the most rested.
Baker suggests a 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. sleep schedule for most babies. Also, make sure your baby is drowsy at bedtime. If they cry, soothe them and put them back in their bed, not yours. She says most babies can learn to sleep through the night at 4.5 months, and habits can be formed after just 2 nights.
Sleep is actually a learned skill.
The truth is some kids are not going to be very good sleepers.
Dr. Greg Savell says pediatricians should be able to help with sleep issues. He suggests crying it out for a couple of nights.
That has been the advice of hundreds of years of pediatricians. There have been some people who say something against that, but the truth is that's what has always worked.
SJ's parents chose not to go that route. So, did the sleep coach work for them? We checked back about 2 weeks later, and looks like baby is finally catching some Z's.
He's an awesome little guy.
And his parents' worries are now put to rest.
Now, it's important to make sure you first rule out any underlying medical conditions that could be related to your child's sleep trouble. And if that checks out, most sleep coaches charge around $500, but the cost varies based on location. Now, Dr. Savell also says pediatricians should be able to address sleep concerns, and that if yours doesn't, find another one.
Yeah, it's difficult to find a pediatrician you really feel like you can trust.
Yeah.
But oh, so important. It's important for our kids to get the sleep they need, and it's not just because you don't want them to be grumpy in the morning, but it's because a lack of sleep when they're young may lead to big problems down the road. Obesity is a major concern for children who don't get enough sleep. Research out of Johns Hopkins University shows for each additional hour of sleep, a child's risk of becoming overweight lowers by 9%. Research also shows children who sleep the least have a 92% higher risk of becoming overweight. Now, according to sleep experts cited on Better Health, sleep problems are also associated with an increased risk of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, you know it as ADHD. Lack of sleep may also lead to depression, problems with impulse control, and poor concentration. As a matter of fact, studies show high school students who regularly score a C, D, or F get about half an hour less sleep per night than students who get A's and B's.
So if you're thinking about your children's sleeping habits and they're not getting enough shut-eye, you probably want to do something about it before the new school year starts.
Yeah, moments ago, we heard the sleep coach Stephanie Baker say newborn habits can be formed after just 2 nights. Now, when it comes to the rest of us, sleep specialist Dr. Stephanie Silberman says it can take several days, maybe even weeks, to shift your sleep schedule. But before you and your kids start going to bed earlier, findings from a recent sleep conference suggest you might want to consider sleeping in a bit.
Getting enough sleep can be easier said than done. So how much do you get?
And do you think it's adequate?
I get maybe 6-7 hours, and yeah, it usually works for me.
6 hours and probably not.
I get about 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and I think that's enough.
And he's right. The National Sleep Foundation says less than 7 hours or more than 9 hours could be detrimental to your health. Teenagers and children need more sleep, and many don't get it, especially during the school year.
Adolescents actually need 9 to 10 hours. They're required to get up way too early in the morning when their brains are not ready to learn.
Dr. David Thomas is the medical director at a sleep center.
REM sleep is a very important part of your sleep.
He's just back from a national sleep conference. Recommendations this year call for the development of age-based sleep guidelines for children, better education for healthcare providers about common sleep disorders, and talk therapy rather than medication to treat insomnia.
We're trying to move American society or Western society back to where it should be, because we have a lot of comorbidities in this country. Obesity is related to poor sleep habits.
Thomas says sleeping more than 9 hours may be an indicator of depression, diabetes, congestive heart failure, or high blood pressure. A new website, sleep.org, was just launched to explain how sleep affects the body and give tips to improve sleep health, including a page for kids.
About a quarter of kids with attention deficit disorder or hyperactivity may just be a function of they had not good quality sleep.
We should make some new paintings.
I know, we should.
With so many children overscheduled during the school year, experts say some downtime is critical over the summer for kids and parents. Yeah, no argument here about that downtime. So we touched on how much sleep our kids need, but let's go ahead and break it down by age and hours. According to the National Sleep Foundation, newborns, or 1 to 2 months, need a total of 10.5 to 18 hours a day. Infants, 3 to 11 months old, typically need 9 to 12 hours of sleep during the night. Now, to our toddlers, or 1 to 3-year-olds, the foundation reports they need 12 to 14 hours of sleep a day. Preschoolers next at 3 to 5 years, the foundation says they need 11 to 13 hours of sleep each night. Moving on to school-age kids, ages 5 to 12, they need 10 to 11 hours of sleep. And finally, our teenagers need about 9 hours and 15 minutes of sleep a night to function best. But the foundation says for some teenagers, 8.5 hours of sleep is good enough.
That's certainly no problem for my teenager. I can't tell you how many days I've had to drag him out of bed. But you know, for some people, getting out of bed isn't just a case of the sleepy eyes. Ever hear of Sleeping Beauty syndrome? Yep, it's a thing. Up next on DelmarvaLife, find out what doctors think causes it and what's in the works to treat it.
And a little later on, you don't want to sleep in on him. For more than 20 years, trainer Hal Chernoff has provided boxers with the skills they need to come out on top in the ring. But it's more than just uppercuts and bobbing and weaving. You're going to see how he also gives athletes the life skills they need to succeed in the real world. DelmarvaLife will be right back.